This is Cherry Gap Shelter where I stayed last night. It does not have a privy, it does not have bare hang cables, and it's not in the best of condition. All indications that it is on the Tennessee side. No, not casting any aspersions against Tennessee, but the North Carolina shelters are much nicer, and they have bare hang cables and privies. So that's just what it is. I had the shelter all to myself last night, although there was a tent guy over from me. He's a through hiker by the name of Steppenwolf, and so I wasn't like completely alone here. He was actually here at the shelter when I came in last night, which was at 6 o'clock last night, and I had about 20 minutes before it got dark to get my stuff together. So I didn't really have time to do a whole lot, but you know, it was getting cold, so I got my bed made and got in it pretty quick because my clothes were wet. So today is Tuesday, February 28th, and it is, I think, day 13 for me. I'll clarify that. After being on the trail for a few days, I can definitely tell that my legs and my lungs are adapting. I still have to stop and suck wind sometimes, but not nearly as often or for as long. I'm sure that will continue to improve, so I'm pleased with the progress that I've made in that respect. I also wanted to mention that I've been using a term the last couple of days that it occurred to me that maybe not everyone knows what that term means. People who are familiar with hiking, they definitely know, but I know that at least part of my audience may be some elementary kids at my school, and so I wanted to explain a term. I've used the term slack packing a couple of times, and slack packing is where you get somebody to take your pack for you further up the trail in a car, and then you hike to where your pack is. And when you're slack packing like that, all you have to do is carry a little bit of water and, you know, just a couple of things, a jacket, just in case you got cold or things like that. But when you're dealing with a pack that weighs somewhere between 35 and 40 pounds with food and water, anytime you can get not having to carry that is a big plus, and you can make so much better time. So that's slack packing, and I did I think 13 miles of slack packing maybe last Saturday, going across Big Bald Mountain, and then I was able to do about 8 miles of slack packing yesterday, which helped. I mean, yesterday was a pretty grueling day anyway, but any assistance you can get with slack packing is a plus. Since I talked about terminology, maybe I should go over a couple of other terminology kind of things that maybe would help people who don't know hiking to understand a few things. When you're talking about, there's a lot of different kinds of hikers and a lot of different categories, but one category you might say is there are either through hikers, or they're section hikers, or they're day hikers, just recreational hikers. So you know, a day hiker is just somebody who just goes out and enjoys a little day hike on the trail, and they have no intention of doing long-term hiking. Section hikers are people who they hope to maybe eventually string together the whole trail over a period of sometimes even years. I've heard of people taking years to do it. And then there are through hikers, and through hikers are people who they try to hike the trail in a single season. Now I'm getting ready to go down. This is a very pretty little tiny waterfall. See if I can capture it up through there. Water just coming down the hill there. It's really nice. I have to be very careful making my way down these steps though, because these rocks are really slick. And at a certain point yesterday, I was trying to do a stream crossing, and my feet came out from under me. Boom, down I went right into that creek. So much for somebody who calls himself Surefoot, huh? But anyway, back to talking about the through hikers. So, you know, I'm considering myself a through hiker because I'm going to try to get it finished within a year. Then when you're in the category of through hikers, let me go back to the section hikers. There are people who just hike like a day or two sections at a time. There are people who hike like long periods of time, days, weeks, out on the trail. And those people are called lashers, and I'm not going to tell you what lasher stands for, but they're long section hikers, and you can insert the A word however you want to, but those are lashers. Then when you're talking about through hikers, you've got northbound through hikers, which are called nobos. When I first read that or saw it, I was thinking hobo, and that's sort of how you feel when you're a hiker, is a hobo. But northbound through hikers are nobos because they're only going north. Southbound through hikers are sobos. Imagine that, and they're only going south. There's another type of through hiker called a flip-flopper. A flip-flopper is someone who, you know, maybe goes up to like the halfway point. A lot of times people start off at like Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, and then go north for half of it, and then flip-flop, get a ride back down to Harper's Ferry, and then hike south. And there's lots of different variations of that. So that's a couple of categories of hikers explained to you, at least from my perspective. I don't claim to be an authority, but I've read a lot, and I've met several hikers, and so I pretty much understand. I'll stop talking in just a second, but I want to say that most no-bow through hikers get on the trail somewhere in the time frame from the beginning of January through maybe April or May. The peak day that people choose to get on the trail as a no-bow through hiker is March the 1st. And so I'm hoping to stay ahead of that. When there's a big bunch of people, it's called a bubble, and I'm hoping to stay in front of that bubble, which I'm several weeks ahead of them. Tomorrow is March the 1st, so there's something like, I think, 75 people going to get on the trail, either at Springer Mountain or Amicalola State Park, which is 8 miles south of Springer Mountain, tomorrow. But hopefully I'll have my trail legs under me in a couple of weeks, and I'll just be able to keep keep on staying way ahead of those folks. Not that I like the interaction with people, but not really big into crowds and congestion. And if I want to stay at a hostel, I don't want to hear that they're booked up. So far I've not had that problem, and I hope to avoid it. Now, solo through hikers, they usually don't get on the trail till sometime in June, because they're starting, a true soloer is starting in Maine, in Katahdin, Maine. In Baxter State Park, where Katahdin Mountain is located, it doesn't even open till like the 1st of June, I think. And so really you can't even drive close to Katahdin in a car until then, because winter's not let up completely up there. So those folks get on the trail sometime in June, maybe July, and they head southbound, and so they don't finish. Those folks start finishing somewhere around October, November, even December. Whereas northbound through hikers Novos, they start finishing anywhere from June, maybe May, maybe June, July, and then they don't finish all the way up until August and September. You about have to finish by if you're going, because winter has set in again at Katahdin, and you just can't get up there if it's too late in the season. There's another aspect to through hiking, and that is their commitment to purity. And when I say purity, I'm referring to just how committed you are to like being as true to how a through hiker would be, where I guess people's idea of what a through hike would be, where you get on the trail and you just go and go and go and go and go till you get to the other end. So there are a lot of thoughts on hiker purity in that respect. I guess a true purist would, they wouldn't get off the trail and go into town except for maybe to resupply. But then that's a little bit of a deviation from purity, I guess. But they only go in one direction. A true purist would only go in one direction. They wouldn't do like, I've done it a time or two where it was more convenient for me to go southbound for a section of the trail. Like when I was trying to make up some time, or maybe I'm slack packing or something like that. And but a purist would only go in one direction. A purist wants to pass every single white blaze on the trail, and don't want to miss anything, which I've pretty much not missed any white blazes, I don't believe. I'm a purist in that respect. I want to see the whole trail and be able to say that I've seen the whole trail. There are some hikers that get off and just skip sections of the trail, but still consider themselves a through hiker. And I'm not going to say they're not, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to skip sections of the trail. I want to do the whole thing. There are terms for those people. Sometimes they're called blue blazers. Sometimes they're called yellow blazers. A yellow blazer has to do with like the yellow line on a highway, and rather than doing the white blaze of the trail, they get off and take the highway up a certain way and then get back on the trail again. So that's a little commentary about purity and like going the same direction and catching all the white blazes. The shelter where I stayed last night was, for the most part, I think mouse free. But I did get paid a visit by a mouse last night. I don't know what time it was, 1:30 or 2 o'clock, or maybe later, I can't remember. But he was up around my head, bouncing around a little bit. But I mean, I've been in shelters where you could just hear mice scurrying around all night long. And I didn't hear that. It was like this guy was just sort of passing through, and he thought, oh, go see if there's any food around. And he didn't find any, because I'm pretty careful to keep my food up and away and inaccessible to mice. And so I think he realized there was nothing there for him and decided to move on. Yesterday, when I was crossing that set of train tracks, I said I thought that was the first set of tracks I'd crossed on the trail, but I remembered I crossed a set of train tracks. It was for the Great Smoky Mountains Railway when I was leaving the Nantahala Outdoor Center. So this was the second set of tracks I crossed. Clyde Smith Shelter.